Alright guys, welcome aboard again. We're going to continue our sightseeing tour of California. We're going to be going from one lake to another here this time. We're going to be flying from Lake Tahoe over to Mono Lake. And let me bring up the chart over here. I'll show you where we're heading. There you go, there's Lake Tahoe right there, and here's Mono Lake. Now there's quite a bit of mountains right here. We're going to try to avoid most of the tall stuff here. So we're going to be flying. Let me zoom in over here. So here's Lake Tahoe. We're going to take off Lake Tahoe. I think we're going to be taking off, heading towards the lake. We'll see what the weather. What's the weather like right now here? It's showing winds calm. So if that's the case, we'll take off heading for the lake. Then kind of turn around, give us a little bit of time to climb out a little bit, because we're going to be going out over these mountains here, and kind of getting into the ravine. You can see some of the mountains right here are pretty tall. We'll kind of make our way around it. Right, and I've kind of got us going towards this little airport here, Bridgeport, and that's really to avoid a lot of these really tall, 11, almost 12,000 foot peaks, actually 12,000 right there, 12,300. And then we're going to descend down and we're going to go into Lee Vining Airport here at Mono Lake. It's a pretty short flight. And if I bring up the flight plan just for the heck of it, you can see right here. Let's see, 118-ish, just for average ground speed. And you can see it's only about 36 minutes, so it should be a nice quick flight. Let's jump in the plane and get started. So let me go ahead and get rid of that. We'll hop in the plane here, and we're going to use a checklist, but you know what? I kind of didn't like the checklist that came with the airplane. Some of it was pretty thin, let's put it that way. And so what I did was I went online and I found a decent checklist. So we're just gonna pull that up, and we're gonna go by this checklist, which is actually from, I guess, an Australian site, but hey, they've got it online, so we're gonna use it. So pre-flight checks here. Let's go ahead and do this. We'll jump in the plane here on my side so I can actually do everything we're looking at the checklist. So control wheel release belts. And so what happens is you actually, and I kind of recall this, you actually have the seat belt come down and it just holds the yoke. Kind of like that. That's usually, and now that I see that on the checklist, I remember that from my real world flying of the Warrior. So a control wheel basically has been released. Avionics are off, so let's go ahead and make sure all of our avionics here are off. And transponders off. Okay. Master switch to on. And when it says master switch, they're talking about battery master switch right there. Okay, and what we're doing here is checking our fuel, and you can see our fuel is pretty low, so we're going to go ahead and we'll refuel the plane here. We'll go, let's see, I guess we can go full. What the heck. Alright, and now we've got full fuel in our tanks here. So next is fuel quantity gauges. Yep, we checked them, we put our fuel in, and master switch off. So we're not going to go off. Ignition is off. That's right there. And exterior check for damage. So now we're going to go outside the plane. Let's go ahead and follow along here. And again, I know the checklist is kind of in the way, but we'll take a look at all the stuff that's on the checklist here. So what do we got here? Control surfaces, exterior check for damage, nothing obvious. Control surfaces check for interference, free of ice, snow, frost, any of that good stuff. Right, hinges, we're taking a look at those, making sure nothing's missing. Wings, again, stall horn or stall warning. We're going to make sure that looks okay. It's not blocked up with a bug or something like that. Tie downs and chocks, let's go ahead and remove those. We'll do that over here. Alright, so we've removed that. Navigation and other lights, we're going to check the lights, make sure they look like they're in good working order. Fuel tanks, we're going to check the fuel supply. Fuel tank sumps, we're going to drain those, make sure there's no water in them. Fuel vents, there's little vents that actually vent the top of the tank, so we'll make sure they're open, no bugs in it. Check the gear. make sure they're properly inflated. Brake blocks, that's kind of like chocks. Well, actually brake blocks, we're actually checking the brakes to make sure that you see a visible brake pad in there, right? Pitot head, make sure it's uncovered. Windshield, nice and clean. Prop area and spinner, make sure there's no cracks. Fuel and oil, we're going to check for any leaks underneath the engine. Again, oil, we're going to check the oil with the dipstick, make sure it's properly seated after cowling. We're going to secure it. Inspection covers, make sure they're all secured. Front tire, we're going to check the pressure and make sure the front strut is good, which is a good thing because I once flew a Piper Warrior and it was actually very cold, and well, long story short, basically the strut failed on touchdown. So anyway, but ended up just taxiing back to the FBO. Okay, so air inlets, make sure they're all clear. Alternator belt, make sure it's there. Check the tension on it. Tow bar and control locks are stowed. Baggage area properly stowed. All the baggage. Baggage door is closed. Fuel strainer, drain. There's one underneath the actual cockpit. That's what that one is, I believe. Primary flight controls, proper operation, right? We'll check those again. Cabin door closed and secure. So let's go ahead and let's pop into the cockpit here. We're going to go ahead and latch our door. What else we got here? Cabin door, required papers on board. So usually we check inside the little glove box, usually down here someplace, make sure we've got our airworthiness certificate. Seat and harness, the seat belts and harnesses, make sure they're all working properly. Okay, and then let's go back over here. Sorry, didn't want to do that. All right, let me move this over so you can actually see the full checklist. Before start, so pre-flight and passenger briefing has been completed. We already talked about where we're going, what we're going to do. Flight authorization, I guess that'd be like our clearance. So we're just doing VFR here. Maintenance release, again, this is from a flying club in Australia, so we were just checking our paperwork, making sure that the airplane is good. It's got its proper maintenance checks and all that stuff. Seats adjusted, we move our seat back and forth. Parking brake is set, so let me go down here and make sure our parking brake is set. Yes, it is. Carburetor heat full off, which it is. Fuel selector on the desired tank will start off on the left. Avionics and radios off. They are. Alright, we're ready to start. Throttle open 1/4. Master switch on. That means both of them. Fuel pump on. Mixture set full rich. And starter engage. Alright, we are started up. Throttle. We're going to adjust that back down. And oil pressure is starting to come up into the green here. All right, let's go down on our checklist here. Then after start, okay, so after start we got our throttle. Oil pressure is getting into the green arc. Like I said, it's throttled back right now. Fuel pump off. Alright, and mixture lean, which we're going to do right now. And we make sure that our alternator is charging. That's down here. Avionics and intercoms, we're going to turn all those on. So we'll turn on our radios now. Put a standby on the transponder. Put these two on. Voice, we're going to put the nav on to ident. Alright, that looks good. Just making sure that we've got all our radios set up. Alright, so taxi brakes. We're going to check the brakes and flight instruments. Ground checks on the run-up. So we'll get rid of the checklist right now until we're ready to taxi on out. Alright, so basically we're going to have a crosswind whichever way we take off. So let's take a look here. I think, which way are we heading here? We are heading east. So the lake is down there. And I guess we can taxi down this way. Either or. X-Plane is deciding to put some airliners here at Lake Tahoe. Not very realistic. Alright, let's taxi. Yeah, I want to take off over the lake anyway, so we're gonna get a crosswind here one way or the other. So let's go ahead and release our brakes. We'll start taxiing out to the right side here. Alright, checking my brakes, checking my steering also. Yeah, I don't think we'd really have a Qantas 747 at Lake Tahoe. That's not very realistic. All right. Well, let's see here. Go ahead. We're going to head all the way down to the end of the runway, so we'll take the taxiway down here. And you can see the mountains up ahead of us, so we're gonna take off in the opposite direction, and then what we're gonna do is we're gonna kind of start climbing out and try to climb out. Maybe we'll have to go around this little valley here to get over the ridges before we get up to altitude. We'll see. A little mountain flying here, so I think the field elevation here is like 6,300-ish, something around there at Lake Tahoe, so quite high. So we'll have a little bit of a different sort of technique for taking off at such a high altitude. Basically, we're not using any flaps, and what we're going to do, not that we normally do, but we're not using any flaps. We're going to keep it on the ground a little bit longer to get our airspeed up just a little bit higher. So we're probably going to rotate around 70-75. So I'm kind of doing a fast taxi to get down to the end over here. Then we will bring up our checklist again and get ready for departure to Mono Lake. Looks like they got a little area right here for us to do our run up, so we'll taxi over here. Alright, that's about right into the wind, I think. And I come down here and put my parking brake on. Now let's bring the checklist up and we'll do the ground check run up. So here we go. Parking brake is on. Fuel tank, we're going to stay on the left because we're full up on both tanks. Engine instruments checked, green arc. And we're basically looking for temperature in the green, oil pressures in the green, fuel pressures in the green. Throttle 2000, so let's throttle up to 2000. Alright, and again we're checking our oil pressure. Let me go ahead and zoom this out. There we go, so we can actually see it. There we go. So we're checking our pressure right here. Temperature, fuel pressure is still good. Magnetos, we're going to check left. Got about 40 or 75 per drop there. Go back to both. And about a, say, 80 drop there. Go back to both. Carburetor heat check, it is off. Vacuum, we're going to check over here, make sure our vacuum's right around 5. An actuator panel, press to test, we'll press that. Alright. And fuel pressure we already checked, throttle idle. And what you do there, throttle idle, you just want to bring it all the way back and make sure that the engine doesn't stall out. You can see we're at, I don't know, what is that, 800 is the lowest we'll go here. And then just sitting here, you want to keep it running right around 1000. So before takeoff, let's do this. Master switch is on. Magnetos are on both flight instruments, check and set. So let's do that here. Like I said, altimeter wise, I think, let's see. I'm going to check my field elevation right here and just set it with field elevation because I don't want to tune my radios. So field elevation is 6,269 feet. So I'm just going to set this 6,200. Here's 50, 60, someplace around there. Okay, that's about right. Heading indicator. Let's go ahead and set that. We'll take a look at that over here. So that's about east 0678. We're about 080. It is right there. Double check that. 678. Yep. Okay, that looks good. Let's go back to our checklist over here. What we got? Fuel pump on. Right, so instruments were checked. Proper tank. Yep. Fuel selector selected. Electric fuel pump on. Go ahead and zoom out here a little bit. So fuel pump is on. Engine gauges are checked, and we're looking at making sure everything's in the green. Carburetor heat off. It is. Seat backs direct. Mixture set for AR. I'm not sure what AR means. Arrival. I don't know. But we're pretty much gonna, let's see, we'll mention a little bit. I'm taking a look at the EGT here. Right there. To make sure that we're kind of at peak. Leaning it out a little bit. There we go. Okay, that's about right there. Bring the checklist back up. Seatbelts, make sure primer is in and locked. Yes, it is. Throttle friction is set. Seatbelts fastened. Empty seats, seatbelt snugged. Flaps set. They are off. Trim tab is set, so let's go ahead down here and go ahead and set my flap, or my trim, right about there. Controls are free and correct. Doors are latched. We checked that. Departure briefing. Like I said, we're going to take off over the lake, turn around, climb out. Takeoff safety brief. Normally there's a safety brief, so if anything happens, we're going into the lake basically right after takeoff. We're not turning around because it's such a high altitude if we lost our engine. Alright, I'm going to line up here, strobes and transponder, so let's go ahead and do that right now. Turn strobes on, landing light on, and we're going to double check our compass and against the DG directional gyro. Once we line up, I think we're ready for takeoff. Let's put our yoke back on, get squared up. Alright, brakes off. squared up on the runway here, and again we're gonna have a crosswind from the right. Doesn't seem to be a lot, but we'll take that into account. Just get lined up nicely here. Okay, so heading north, checking our compass and our DG. That looks good. Altitude still looks good on our excuse me, on our altimeter. All right, so high altitude departure here. We're going to run up the engine and then release the brakes, get a good, run down the runway, and we're going to rotate at about 70 to 75. So running it all the way up. Check our RPM. That's about max that we're going to be making. Try to hold into that crosswind a little bit. Alright, there's 65, there's 70, there's 75. Let's go ahead and rotate. We got a positive rate. See the lake up ahead of us. And the one thing I did not do is set my rendering settings here. I always forget to do that. So just turn that on. You watch the lake. See, that's default. And that's the reflective water. And then we can also put a little bit of waves on if we want. I think it looks alright without the waves. So we're almost at 1,000 feet. We're going to go ahead and make a right turn over the lake here. Continue our climb out. We're going to nose down just a little bit. Turn the volume down just a tad here. And we'll start heading back, sort of adjacent to the airport. RPM. It's sort of a high altitude, even leaned out. We're not making the same RPM that we would if we were on the ground or down at sea level, is what I mean. All right, one thing I'm going to do here is just turn up our panel lights a little bit. I always forget to do that. Alright, so we're going to climb out at, let's go ahead and trim down a little bit. And then we're going to go around this little, because we're not going to make it over this ridge right here, so we will go through the ravine right over here. And our general heading is going to be about 121 is what we're looking for. And that's sort of what I had on the land. Let me go ahead and bring that up. Take a look at our chart right there. So we kind of took off, came around. You can see 121's the heading, and we're going around this peak right here. And heading on out. So let me go ahead and get rid of that so we can see where we're headed. And once we're clear of this this ridge line right here, we'll make our turn. Coming up to 10,000 feet, which I think was sort of the top of the highest peak right here. We'll go ahead and start turning left a little bit. And I'm nosing over just a little bit, get our airspeed up. We're gonna try to get on our heading here, at least close as we can. I think we're over the majority of the ridges right here. As a matter of fact, I'm gonna go ahead and put my heading bug on. I think that was going the wrong way. 1, 2, 1 was generally our heading that we wanted. Someplace right there. Alright, let's go over here. We're gonna go ahead and lean our mixture even more. Try to get a little bit more power out of the engines here, or engine. So there's our heading, 120. So we're going to be going up to about 11,500. That should clear us over most of the peaks that we saw along the route of flight. And again, we're gonna go around any that we don't. And I'm gonna use the autopilot here. We'll put that on. Go to heading, hold. And we'll also do the altitude hold here. Once we get up to 11,500. Alright, so climbing out, we can turn off our landing light and our fuel pump. Check our fuel pressure, make sure it's still remaining in the green here. And we are coming up to our altitude, 11,500. Right there. Alright, altitude hold on. Nice mountain view out here. Let's go ahead and do a flyby. Alright, so there is an airport that, see that is it M45? Yeah, we're going to fly just to the south of that. So that's about our heading. M45, that's called Alpine County, I guess. We take a look at, let me go ahead and bring the chart up. Here's M45. We're going to head for the, or we're going to fly to this, just to the south of that. Come around to the left side of these high peaks. Right, and then we got a really big one right here, 12,000 foot. Mount, can't see what that's called, but Mount Peterson, or I think. heading for this little lake and Bridgeport, and then we'll turn again, avoid some of these high mountains, and descend down to Mono Lake. Keep that right there. That's a nice view right there. So just passing that little airport here. I'm guessing it's down in a ravine right there. Let's take a look outside, see if we can't see it. There it is. Right there. So next stop is we're looking for a lake and Bridgeport Airport. Then we're going to turn to a heading of about 147-ish. Lots of big mountains out here in California. Let's see what we see on our GPS. I'm zooming out. I'm going to see if that's 200, so that's our best view right there. The local airports. Nevada 72, NV 72 is the airport. Let's see what that is. NV 72 is USMC Sweetwater, US Marine Corps Sweetwater. Not sure what that is, but that's what that is. It's just over the border in Nevada. And it's just over that large peak. Over this large peak. Here it is right here, and here's this like almost 12,000 foot peak, sort of on the back side of that. I'm guessing that's that one there. We're going to be going into this valley. this ridge line here pretty soon. And I think that's where we're going to run into our turning point. So one thing I didn't do is actually reduce our power here. I've been trying to keep the power sort of up to keep the flight going here. But as you can see, our RPM is quite high right there. So I'm going to go ahead and reduce back to like 2700. So that's a little more realistic. I'm going to burn my engine out here. I don't know if this model can do that. And there's our airport, not the one that we're landing at. That's where we're going to turn. Turn at that airport and make our final leg over to Mono Lake. It's just south of that. Bring up the VFR chart again. So there's Bridgeport. That's the airport that we're heading for. Then we just turn inbound right here for Lee Vining Airport at Mono Lake. Let's double check our RPM. Put that up again. I think the ortho I have through here is like 14 zoom level, so it's not the greatest, but I really did it for flying, airliners from like Salt Lake City over to the Bay Area. And so it looks a little bit better higher up than it does in the GA airplane right here. Some of the stuff to the right, at least past the mountains there, is all 16 zoom level because I like to fly the GA out, along the coastline mostly. But we do start getting back into 16 zoom level once we head a little bit farther south here. I don't think we're going to hit it on this flight, but next flight we're kind of doing a round robin here. I haven't planned this out. It's just kind of flying throughout California. We started out in the San Diego area and headed up north along the coastline, different spots, made our way all the way out to the Bay Area, then moved across over to Lake Tahoe here, and then we're kind of heading back down south, but inland here across some of the mountainous terrain, taking a look and see what the scenery looks like throughout here. Alright, so our power setting looks good. Just out of curiosity, while we're cruising out towards this airport, let's bring up our checklist again and see what this checklist has. There's a real-world checklist from some sort of a flying outfit club in Australia. So we did our takeoff. Let's just see what they have. Flaps, retract, fuel pump off. Yep, after takeoff, engine instruments, check them again. Landing light off. No cruise checklists, because what's there to check other than keep an eye on everything. Approach and landing, we got brakes checked and off. Not sure what that means. Brakes checked and off. I'm assuming that means your parking brake. You don't want to have that engaged while you're, before landing. Fuel selector, proper tank, yep. Seat belts erect. Belts and harnesses fastened. Fuel pump on. Mixture is going to be set. Flaps 103 max. Final approach. Flaps, full flaps. It's 40 degrees. Carburetor heat. Make sure that's off. So you can do that beforehand. Just act with depends, I guess. Depends. I'm going to do the carb heat off as you're very close to the airport touchdown. After landing, flaps retract, fuel pump off, strobes, landing light off, transponder standby trims to neutral. Just curious to see what they had. I haven't looked at their checklist here. I was just looking at the departure part of their checklist, which seemed to, well, it is. It's a real checklist. It seemed more realistic than the checklist that was in here. I wonder if you can edit all this stuff, because sometimes it doesn't make any sense. It's almost like they left over some of the stuff here from their Aero, the Piper Aero, like landing gear lever. Okay, the Warrior has fixed gear. Why is this on this checklist? And some things don't make sense. Sometimes they're a little backwards, right? And things are missing, like I said, from real-world checklists that would be on here. See, descent here is just power and throttle, every 1,500 feet. Approach and landing, let's see what they got. Okay. Yeah, I don't like this paper thing, this checklist graphic is kind of, I don't know, a little bit chintzy. They could have done a little bit better with it. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like the plane, and but there are some things in it that could use a little bit of it improving. Alright, well, we have passed our large peak right there that we're going to go around. We're going to basically fly right through this little ravine here, valley, whatever you want to call it. We're coming up to our airport here. And then we're going to start heading, what did I say, 147 I think. Takes us down into the lake, and we will start doing our descent. So now let's take a look at our descent here. I don't have any real world weather right there, unfortunately. We are using real world weather in the sim here, so maybe we'll do a flyover since we don't have any weather reporting right there. See if we can see a windsock. I don't know. But the field elevation is at 6,800 feet. Okay, so we're at 11,500. So that means we can go at 10, 9, 8, 7, so about 5,000-ish feet, whatever. And it looks like the runway is basically almost like a south. I see. See our airport's actually coming up into view on our GPS right there. I think that's it, 024. Verify that on the chart. Yep, or I guess O Oscar 24. Looks like a 0 on here. Looks like an O on the chart. All right, and this here, I wonder if this is like, what is this, some scenery? Not sure if it's like a frozen lake or something. Yeah, it is. It's a lake, so that's called Bridgeport Reservoir. Let me show you on the chart here. So that's that right there. This gets frozen in the ortho here. Right, so we're going to turn 147, start our descent down to Mono Lake, Lee Irving Airport. So 147, once we hit the airport here, let me go ahead and kill the autopilot. Retrim right here. And again, we do have some mountains here that we got to go over, so we want to be mindful of that. It looks like, I'm looking at the chart, that's 7,000. Yeah, it looks about 7,000 between here and our destination, which isn't a whole heck of a lot since the field elevation is at 6,800. So, and actually you can see the lake already right there. Go ahead and show you the dash. There it is. So our airport is like down here. Yeah, this ortho here must have been taken. I don't know if that looks clouds or ice. Might just be some low cloud that was over that reservoir at the time that the satellite went over. Took the picture. And so we're going to start heading for our airport here. Throttle back a little bit. Go ahead and bring up our checklist here too. We got to descend down a little bit. Alright, let me get this. So approach and landing, brakes checked off. So yep. Fuel selector, that's being selected for us in the sim here. Back and forth, seatbelts erect. Yep, seatbelts on, electric fuel pump on. So let's go ahead and turn that on. And mixture is set. We're going to keep it, we're going to kind of adjust it as we go down. And flap set, final approach. The only thing they don't have on here is landing lights, so let me go ahead and do that. Well, landing light is off. They never have it. Yeah, they should have landing light on someplace here on the approach and landing portion. Alright, let's get that off. So what I'm trying to do is I can see that the airport is, I think, down here. Kind of head over the low part right here. I think this is, like I said, this is not too high. We can make it over that. Let's start to get a little bit of a descent down here. Throttle back a bit. So you can see Mono Lake here is, it's got one little island right in the center there. Apparently there's no fish in it, because it's very salty and that alkaline or alkalinity is very high. And at least on Wikipedia it says it has a thriving population of brine shrimp and some kind of fly, which is kind of interesting. I guess some fly sort of loves to breed here at the lake. There's a lot of camping and stuff like that. I hate flies though. I don't know. There's sort of a camping around it. Different campsites. It's considered, I guess, a state park or something like that. Alright, I can see the airport dead ahead of us right now. It's it right there. Just out of curiosity, let's see if we can see a windsock. Zoom, zoom, zoom. See if we can see a windsock all the way out here. No. I didn't think we would, but you know, I guess we could cheat in the simulator here. Let's go ahead and just take a look at our weather. We are VFR, so altimeter is, I guess I'm gonna have to move that. 3024, winds out of the north at 10 or 11. We'll keep that up. So let's go ahead and set our altimeter at least, 3024. Which we're right about there, so. 302. That's not what I wanted. 302. 1, 2. Whatever. Anyway, 3024. We're set. We'll start our descent down. So the winds, basically, yeah, I think we're gonna have to. We'll enter a downwind. We'll enter a downwind. We'll do left traffic. I'm not sure what the published traffic is for this airport. I guess it's maybe right traffic. Yeah, because of the high terrain over here. Though there's seems to be plenty of room. Yeah, it's probably right traffic. I'm just guessing without looking at it. Without looking it up. Alright, so let's throttle back to about 2500, start our descent. And we'll make right traffic for the airport here. And let's see. So we get any information here. Exactly. Trying to see what information we got here on this airport. So let's see. What do I see? Alright, so we got runway 15 and 33, so obviously with the winds 317, we're going to be doing our downwind and then turn. Traffic for 33 is right, and let me go ahead and show you what I'm looking at here. So, sky vector here, so runway 33, right traffic, as I figured, because of the mountains. Sorts of good info here. Alright, let's get rid of that. Get back in the plane, pay attention here. Let's start descending down over the lake here. You can see the mountains out to our west. go ahead here and throttle back to 2500. Get a descent coming down here. Alright, so airport elevation was like 6,000 something. I don't know, we'll just eyeball it here. I guess I can look it up on the chart here. What is it again? 6,600, or is it 6,800? My eyesight is awful. Anyway, 6,800, we'll say. So apparently there's all sorts of, like, because of the salt content in the lake here, there's all sorts of, you know, salt pillars and all that kind of weird stuff all throughout the lake that you can go take a look at if you ever visit. So if you're ever in the mountains of California, Nevada, check out the shrimp over here. Alright, so I'm really going to power down here. What are we at? Should have paid attention to our descent here. We're a little high. Keeping an eye on the winds there too. So looks like, yeah, we're still got a tailwind right now. And I'm actually going to power all the way back. We're at 9,500. So right just about every 1,000 feet, we'll make sure we power up so that we don't foul up the plugs. You know, it says 1,500 on the checklist, but I don't know. 1,000's better in my book. Just easier to keep track of. One less thing, even 1,000. We'll start at 9,000 here, so power up just a little bit. We'll do an extended downwind here just to get down to a decent approach altitude. You can see two of the different orthos getting meshed together here. Yeah. Looks like this one over here was taken summertime, and this one over here taken some other time. It's kind of more brown. Let's do a flyby here over the lake. To 8,000. There's our airport. We're up again. Clearing out those plugs. And we can actually check that on the sim. So if we come over here, you can see spark plug fouling. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead. Put our first notch of flaps in here. I think what are we at? 8,000, about 2,000 feet up above field elevation right here. We can start making our sort of extended downwind turn to base. Bring in a little bit of power. So I'm going to follow that road in right to the airport. Just stay to the right of the road here. Alright, second notch of flaps. And again, another high altitude airport, so we're going to try to keep our airspeed up a little bit. So I'm keeping my power up quite a bit here. I want to stay at about 80 here. I'm going to go to full flaps. I'm going to overshot that center line a little bit. And yeah, winds are almost direct headwind. 6 knots, that's not bad. bit high here, just a tiny bit. All right, and again, high altitude airports, so we're gonna touch down a little bit higher than we normally would if we were down lower at sea level, closer to sea level. So there's I don't know what's happening there at the end of the runway. Ooh, got a little drop off right there. Ooh, this runway looks crazy. It's almost like it's dropping down and down and down. Come on. Alright. And whoa, lots of bounce in there. Holy mackerel. Yeah, this runway's a little hokey there. It's sort of dropping down. Which I guess is alright, but that the end of the runway there kind of threw me for a loop a little bit. Sometimes that happens in X-Plane. You get some weird runway anomaly, like hopefully I don't go off a cliff right here on this one. Kind of up and down. No, this one's alright. The other end look, here we go. You can see the runway is all up and down. Alright, well, welcome to Mono Lake. Hope you enjoyed that flight through the mountains there from Tahoe. We're going to continue our flight, or our tour here of California. So if you haven't subscribed, go ahead and do so, and if you hit the like button, that helps the channel out here too. Get a little bit more views on the channel, and get some more subscribers. And hit the bell button if you want to be notified when a video goes up. Which right now with this series, I'm doing almost one a day. I'm actually going to stop here just because obviously the scenery here is missing for the taxiway here. Go ahead and put my parking brake on here and hop out of the plane. Bring our flaps back up. So, hope you enjoyed that flight. Like I said, join me for some of the other tours that I'm going to be doing here through California. We're going to head down south but inland, so we're going to head out towards the high desert, Edwards Air Force Base, all that good stuff. We'll head on down that way in the next flight or two. Okay? So thanks again. Until next time, bye.